Well, what in the world is Joe doing with an old wash machine? Welcome back to Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona, and we were gifted an old wash machine. And I have been wanting a fire pit, and I talked about it on one of my lives, and some friends of ours said, have you considered doing it with a wash machine tub, a drum? And they had an extra wash machine and they gave it to us. So we have to be able to take it apart. And we have to take that agitator off. And we're just going to send you through the process of how we made it. So the first thing Joe is doing is taking the top off the wash machine. And of course there's going to be wires attached to it. But he has to just kind of look around and see how he has to undo the top so that we can get to that point. And there you can start seeing some of the wires. And we're just going to flip that lid up, and then Joe's going to get some wire cutters and just nip those right off, because we're not saving that part of the wash machine. Now we are going to go through and we're going to see what we can save and what we have to throw away. And so we're going to just clip those few on each side, and that top of the wash machine will come right off. And we are going to use as many parts that we don't have to take into the landfill. Now, when you get to this point, there are things that will just simply pop off that you can either keep or throw away. And so we're just kind of looking, seeing what we can do. Now, there is the inner drum that we're going to use for the fire pit, and then there is a metal outer drum also, and I am going to make that into a planter, and we're going to show you how to do that too. So there's a lot of things that'll just pop off, and there you can have a good look at what is eventually going to become our fire pit. Now we have to get that agitator off, so Joe's popping that off. Now when you do that with some of them, there will be a way that you can just put a socket in there and just ratchet, and a big bolt will come off and you'll be able to slip the agitator off. That is not the case with ours. We tried a lot of different things to try to get that off, and we used WD-40 and we used different sockets and wrenches and a whole bunch of things, but none of them worked. So Joe got his grinder out, and so he's going to go through the plastic and then through the metal rod that's there. So it was lucky that we had brought that down to Arizona. Otherwise, I don't know what we would have done. We would have figured something out. But he's just going around. Now there's smoke, but that is just the plastic heating up. So be careful, because the plastic gets extremely hot. So he's taking a hammer. It's going to knock that off. Don't touch that. It is hot. So he'll be able to just lift up that agitator. You can see the rod, and then there's a little plastic cap. And that just literally just popped off. It was really easy to get it off. And what's holding the drum in is those 3 bolts. Now, if we were back home in Wyoming, he has his impact stuff, and he could have just taken it out easy. But we tried sockets, and it was just really using your muscles. So he has that wrench, and he's just tapping it with the hammer and slowly going around until it loosens itself up. And he was very patient to get all 3 of those out without being mad at me with one of my projects that I have decided to do. But once they were out, he could lift that up. Joe and his strong muscles. You can see that other drum that's in there. So we have the inner drum that's going to be the fire pit. There's a little bit of rust. We can work on that. You can see the holes in the side will give it a lot of good airflow. Now these are things in the wash machine we found. That heavy stone is a counterbalance. There's lots of doohickeys, some things I don't even know what they're called, copper wire. There are pulleys and nuts and bolts, and anything we thought we could use, we kept. Because I hate to put anything in the landfill if I can do something with it. Now here's the lid. We need something that can go over that hole that's in, not in this one, because that's going to be a planter, and all I had to do was cut that plastic and it popped right out after we took the bolts out. But in the fire pit, there is a hole in the bottom, and I don't want the ashes to come out. Now I'm going to take a wire brush. I'm going to hook it to the drill, and I want to get rid of the rust before we spray paint. And we brought some of our drills down. I hooked a wire brush on it, and I'm just going to go over that. And then Joe actually is going to go over with a sander to get the last of the rust off too, because we want it clean before we go to spray paint it. Now the next problem you have is, what are you going to do with the parts that you cannot use? So Joe is cutting it all up, and he thinks he can get it all cut up enough so we can put it literally just in our garbage can. So we don't have to go out to the landfill, pay a fee, and dispose of it. So he's just taking and he's just cutting it apart. And here it is in our garbage can. Amazing. A wash machine that fits in your garbage can. So this is a little square that he cut out of the lid of the wash machine. And he's going to cut a round circle, and I will show you what we're going to do with that in just a little bit, because I don't want the ash to fall down while the fire is going. And so we had to figure out something that was strong and it would last a long time. And so he's going around and he's just literally cutting that into a circle. And as he goes, he just keeps turning the metal and goes a little bit, and then he'll turn the metal again until he has the circle. And he's just taking and getting any sharp edges off so nobody gets hurt from it. And then we have to drill some holes. And I have to tell you, literally, it was screaming while it was going through the metal. It was the craziest sound. And we need to have 3 holes, because remember, we took out 3 bolts from that inner drum. And so as soon as that's done, we can hook it onto the drum. And so there you can see the hole and see where we took those bolts out. So I'm putting the nut through there. Joe's hooking the plate on, and then he's got some bolt, or I'm putting the bolt through, and he's got the nuts on that side, and he's just going to tighten those up. And that way it makes it so none of the fire can fall out from underneath and cause any problems. There it is from the inside. And then we're ready to paint it. And I'm going to paint both of the drums. On the fire pit, we're using a high heat ultra. It's by Rust-Oleum. This is my cost. It was under $10. My flower pot, did I have to paint? No. But I just decided I would. So I'm using a gray. Now, are there some tricks when you spray paint? You're much better off doing very short, light strokes and do multiple coats than you are to put it on really heavy where it might run. And so Joe's real patient. He is just going to go around and spray paint. So we're going to do the bottom and part of the sides before we flip it over. And slow coats, multiple times, and you get a good coverage. And he's also going to do the other one for me. Now on that one, because it's a planter, part of it is going to get buried into the ground. So he's just doing the finishing touches on everything. And they turned out great. I think it will be a wonderful looking fire pit and planter. And we did inside, outside. I wouldn't have had to do the inside, but I did. But I'm really happy with it. Next step, I want it off the ground, so I'm just using some stone. Make sure it's level, and that way I can sit it on and I never have to worry about it toppling. And I actually did try to buy some artificial turf, because Arizona has a lot of rock. Way too high a price. And we set it by our wood. So here's the planter. You can see it's buried partway in. In the center is a plant for the hummingbirds, and then I have pansies and geraniums all the way around. And it gets a lot of shade in the afternoon, so it's not going to be too hot for it, so the drum will not heat up too much. And I'll give you some updates as they start to fill in, and it'll just look fabulous. So today we're doing our first fire pit fire, and so I have paper and I have a couple little cardboard boxes, twigs, and some sticks. I have it all set up. I have a plant. The gnomes are ready to see the fire. And we are going to light our first fire pit in Arizona. So we just have it started. It's mostly paper and the little tiny sticks that are burning right now. Mom and Dad are over, and you can see the fire through the holes. And that was one of the things I liked about this idea. And we'll see how it burns. There's Mom. I'm telling her to wave. And we didn't put a lot of wood in. We just wanted it to burn for about an hour, hour and a half, because it's the very first time. And I just wanted to see how it would do. And it is fabulous. And so we got to sit around the fire. We got to watch it burn. Now it's starting to get some coals in there, which would be a perfect time to roast hot dogs. And it was a lovely night. Then it's just completely coals. I thought about putting some potatoes in there and some foil. Good time to roast marshmallows. And we are really happy with it. So this is how Joe and I took a old wash machine and turned it into a great fire pit for less than $10. If you're looking for a fire pit, look for an old wash machine and see what you can do with it. See you next time.